She had her bags packed to live in a motel. No money, no plan. Just a YouTube channel that nobody was watching and a dream that everyone around her thought was crazy. And I want you to hold on to that image for a second, because the woman I'm about to tell you about today has built a life that most people only dream about, and she did it entirely on her own terms. This is the come up of Hailey Gamba. If you don't know who Hailey Gamba is, let me introduce you. She's a New Jersey-born content creator, lifestyle expert, podcast host, and one of the most genuinely inspiring women building a community online right now. With over 700,000 YouTube subscribers, millions of views, and a podcast called Hail Yes. Hail Yes, that has become a safe space for women all over the world. Hailey has built something real, something that took years of grinding, crying, and telling everyone around her that things were going great when they weren't. She refused to quit even when quitting would have been the easier thing to do. But here's what I love most about her story. It's not a story about overnight success. It's not a story about going viral once and riding the wave. It's a story about a girl who knew, even when nobody else believed her, that she was gonna make it. And that belief, that unshakable knowing, is what I want to talk to you about today. So let's get into it. Hailey grew up in New Jersey, the oldest of 4 children. And if you know anything about being the oldest daughter, you already understand something about who she is. She carried that weight that oldest daughters carry. The pressure to lead, to set the example, to be responsible, to have it together even when you don't. She described herself as someone who was always anxious, always hyper-independent, always trying to be perfect. But here's something interesting I found out about her. Even growing up, Hailey was confident. She was expressive. She was, by her own admission, the loud one, the obnoxious one. The girl who always had something to say and wasn't afraid to say it. And that quality, that fire in her, would become one of the most important parts of her story. But first, it almost got completely buried. She talked about growing up in an environment where standing out didn't always feel safe. Female teachers who were mean to her. Women in authority who, instead of lifting her up, told her she wasn't all that. Peers who pushed back on her confidence like it was something to be ashamed of. And when you hear that kind of thing over and over again, when the message you keep receiving is that being fully yourself is a problem, you can start to shrink. You might start to make yourself smaller. You might start to wonder if they're right. And I think this is important to know. Listen to what she said here about a moment in her life when she was young, and the words her mom gave her that changed everything.
I remember when I was young, I came home from school and I was definitely like crying or upset. And I told my mom that I was bullied for how I looked. I had curly hair, I had darker skin than everyone else, and I just looked different. And I was raised in a town where literally no one looked like me until I ended up going into middle school and high school. But prior to that, I was the only person who looked like me. And it made me feel very insecure and unworthy and undesirable, even just as a little girl. And I remember my mom would always say very affirming, wonderful things to me as a young girl that has completely shaped my reality of my identity. She would always tell me such amazing things about how I was unique and beautiful and how one day I'm going to be chosen by so many people, and to walk with my head held high because I was so extremely beautiful, and it just takes special eyes to see it. I was definitely at the age where those types of words really sat with me. And I think from that point on, I always thought very highly of myself.
I always think situations like that are interesting because it's such a reminder of how much our environment shapes us, especially when we're young. And Hailey is a perfect example of someone who absorbed all of that. She tried to become palatable to everyone around her and then had to spend years unlearning it. But even with all of that, she had a dream and nobody was gonna take it from her. In 2015, the year she graduated high school, Hailey Gamba started a YouTube channel. She had been watching YouTubers for years, watching them build audiences, build businesses, build lives. And she knew with everything in her that that was where she was supposed to be. She started with makeup tutorials, hair reviews, the kind of content she thought would fast track her success. She even kept a planner where she tracked her growth. Listen to what she says.
So this is my planner where I used to write down my subscriber count, and I want to show you guys kind of what I was recording. So I literally recorded any time that I grew, literally. So this is what it looks like, look. So on February 25th of 2015, I had 69 subscribers. And then all the way down to October 3rd, it's almost a year, I had 629 subscribers. Very appreciative. Trust me, I was like so excited.
February 2015, 69 subscribers. By October of that same year, almost a full year later, 629. And somewhere in that time, she had convinced herself she was gonna hit 100,000 subscribers in a year. I thought that was really interesting when I heard that. Not because it was delusional, even though she'll be the first to laugh and admit it was, but because it shows you something about her belief in herself from the very beginning. Even at 18, even with 69 subscribers. She already knew she was gonna be that. She also enrolled in college that same year, quit her job, and told her mom it was so she could focus on school. The real reason was so she could focus on YouTube. And honestly, I love that about her. That kind of stubborn, all-in commitment to a vision even when nobody around you understands it yet, that's big. Here's where the story gets real, and I want you to stay with me here because this part matters. After about a year on YouTube with very little growth, the questions started coming from every direction. What's your plan? What are you doing? And Hailey, instead of folding, dropped out of college and enrolled in cosmetology school. Not because she wanted to be a cosmetologist, but because she needed to buy herself some more time. She had two medical professional parents who expected education. School wasn't optional in her house, so she navigated it the best she could, staying in orbit around what her family needed while trying to protect the dream they didn't fully understand yet. And she said something that I thought was so real and so honest. She said she was embarrassed. She would make up stories. She would tell everyone she was doing great. She was growing so fast, and it wasn't true. She just wanted everyone to leave her alone so she could keep going. I always think situations like that are interesting because it says so much about the character of a person. Because even though she wasn't telling them the whole truth in that moment, it wasn't about her ego. It was about survival. It was about protecting something fragile and sacred from people who didn't have the capacity to understand it yet. And I think a lot of us who have chased something unconventional know exactly what that feels like. She was 19 years old, still living at home, making almost nothing, and she described what her days actually looked like at that time. And I want you to hear this. She said she would cry, wipe her tears, put on makeup, film a video, and then cry again. That was her life. That was the reality behind the camera. And then things got even harder. There came a point where the tension at home reached a breaking point. Her mom wanted her out or back in school. And Hailey, with $100 a month coming in from YouTube, no savings, no backup plan, had her bags packed and was calling motels. She was genuinely prepared to go live in a motel rather than give up. She didn't end up leaving. She made what she now calls the best decision of her life. She went back to school, stayed home, swallowed her pride, and used that time and stability to keep building. She said, "Don't let your pride get in the way of having an easier time at doing things." And coming from someone who was one phone call away from a motel room, that lands different. January 2019, Hailey Gamba posted what would become her most famous video, and for a whole month, it had 600 views. She was so frustrated because this was supposed to be the one. And then March came, and it blew up. But here's what I want you to understand about that moment, because the video going viral isn't actually the most important part of the story. What happened in January 2019 was something deeper. Hailey made a decision. She decided to just be herself on camera. She talked about how for years she had been censoring herself. She had deleted her Vine account before she even started YouTube, full of videos of her just being herself, being loud, being silly, being real, because she was afraid it would hurt her brand. She was so focused on being professional, being palatable, being what she thought a YouTuber was supposed to be, that she had completely erased the thing that made her interesting. She said she used to get on camera and be like, "Hi guys, welcome back to my channel." And it just wasn't her. It wasn't who she was at all. And then in January 2019, she said, "Forget it. I'm gonna be myself. I don't care if I'm obnoxious. I like it." And that was the day everything changed. I believe that moment is the real turning point in her story. Not the viral video, not the money, not the subscribers. It was the moment she stopped performing a version of herself she thought people wanted and just showed up as who she actually was. And the world responded. After that self-care video blew up, the growth was, by her own description, not gradual. It was ridiculous. It was insane. Her revenue went from $200 in April to $1,400 the following month, then $3,000 a month. And she said something I thought was priceless. "This is the most money I've ever seen in my bank account a month." Not because she hadn't worked hard for it, but because for the first time, all that hard work was paying off in a way she could see and feel. Then came management. A company reached out, and after being rightfully cautious, because there are companies that will take 20% of your earnings and offer you nothing in return, she got on a call, asked the right questions, and found the right team. And that relationship changed everything. Before management, her sponsorship deals were capped at $500. After management, she was making $3,000 to $7,000 per video in brand deals alone. She said, "I essentially tripled my income." And as a Black creator, she was clear about why management mattered, because without it, she was being lowballed consistently. With it, nobody could touch her price point. She moved out of her parents' house with $15,000 saved. She said, "I had never saved a dollar in my life." And she moved into the apartment that she and her boyfriend Alex had driven past every single day while they were still living with her parents. parents, imagining their life there. And then one day, that imagined life was just their life. Listen to what she says.
About 2 years ago, me and Alex sat on my bed at my parents' house and we were writing down all of our dreams. One of them was to live in this apartment. Another one was to have 2 dogs, to have a new car, to make a certain amount of money every month. And it's scary to think that I've actually reached all those goals in a year. And I think that the biggest thing that I want you guys to take away from this video is that I always knew that I would. And I believe that that was definitely what got me here, because I believed in myself so much, especially when no one else did.
I've been doing this for a while now, telling these stories, and every single time I sit with someone's come up, I find myself looking for the thread, the thing underneath the thing, the real reason they made it when so many other people don't. And with Hailey, it's clear as day. She believed in herself when the numbers said she shouldn't. When she had 69 subscribers and $0 and a mom who wanted her out of the house, she still knew. She said, I always knew that I would. And I believe that was definitely what got me here, because I believed in myself so much, especially when no one else did. That's it. That's the whole thing. Not the viral video, not the management deal, not even the talent, though she has plenty of it. It was the belief, maintained over years of embarrassment and rejection, and $100 months, and bag packing moments, and crying before filming, and making up stories to everyone just to keep going. For all of my dreamers out there, the ones doing things that don't make sense to the people around you, the ones being called lazy and delusional and unrealistic, I want you to hear this part, because Hailey didn't get where she is in spite of the struggle. She got there through it. Every hard moment was building something in her, something that couldn't have been built any other way. And the version of herself she kept trying to hide, the loud one, being silly, being real, the one who got told she wasn't all that by grown women who should have known better, that version is exactly who built the life she always dreamed of. Remember, don't shrink yourself for people who can't handle your full size. Hailey Gamba is a great example of what happens when you refuse to quit on yourself. When you make the unglamorous decision to stay home, go back to school, swallow your pride, and keep building, even when nobody's watching, even when nobody believes you, even when you're making up stories just to buy one more day to try. She drove past that apartment every day. She wrote down subscriber counts in a planner. She cried, filmed, and cried again. And now she's built a community of hundreds of thousands of women who show up every week because she decided to just be herself. That is what the come up is all about for me. I hope you enjoyed learning more about Hailey's journey. I want to know, was there anything about her story that surprised you? Anything that hit close to home? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see more stories like this one, make sure you're subscribed, because I'll be back with more for you soon. Peace and blessings. And thank you for watching.